Hello and welcome to the Hobby Corner. My name's Kev, and today we're going to be discussing a little something which has hit everybody um, with a big. I mean, not everybody's surprised. A lot of people are surprised, and some people are not for various reasons. Right now, we're live recording, so we're live on Twitch and at YouTube at the moment. Of course, this will be posted up on YouTube later. But if you want to come to the shenanigans and the more flexible streaming experience, then hop over to the Twitch channel, and then we can have a lot more fun there. Is it applied? Ah, sweet mate, that's awesome. Okay, so let's go, shall we? So I've seen a couple of videos on this subject. I've seen a lot of posts around social media about this subject. So firstly, I want to caveat the whole thing, right? You're allowed to be pissed, okay? You're allowed to be upset. You're allowed to be annoyed by what's happening, right? These miniatures, most of them are not that old. Actually, they're in the relative spectrum of things, and I've discussed this before in previous live streams, in the relative time period of things, Games Workshop normally refresh stuff well over the 10-year mark, right? And a lot of this stuff is 5, 6 years old at most. Now, I get, I mean, some of it is even almost brand new. Now, there's a lot of reasons why this is all coming together and why it's happening, and we'll go through that in a minute. But just know that you are allowed to be annoyed, and sympathies to you, because as someone who has been through that process of getting a collection and it being taken away and then replaced, um, it can be a bit disheartening. I still got a lot of those Stormcast miniatures untouched by paint, built but just untouched by paint. So will I still get around to painting them? Maybe one day. Is the resale value going to be there? Probably not, but you still get collectors nonetheless. Um, but I would say it does sting, especially because a lot. I mean, all of those Stormcast miniatures came in the Mortal Realms magazine, which ended. I mean, what, 3 years ago at most, I think. So, you know, a lot of people are going to have a lot of these collections. Um, so yeah, we're going to have a look and see. But just remember, as a part of that caveat, is Games Workshop, it is an international company, but compared to a lot of other international companies, it's quite small. And it still has its main house, which is Citadel, which is, Warhammer Age of Sigmar, Warhammer 40k, and that's the mainstay there. And then you got your specialist studio, which is sort of morphed from Forge World, sort of like a rebranding of Forge World, really, that deals with the smaller projects. So Blood Bowl, Warcry. Actually, is it Warcry? I'm not sure actually on Warcry. Horus Heresy, definitely, and Lord of the Rings. So they got their hands full with doing all that, and Citadel got their hands full with everything else, including all the paint stuff and all that. It doesn't stop the business being split on different levels. You got your sales, you got your retail, you got your the commercial side of things, R&D, you know, resourcing and all that sort of stuff. Um, and that's before you get to the studio bits. And everything's got to run in a way that doesn't lose the company money. So therefore, they have to think hard about what they do going forward. And one of those things is how much um, stock they're going to hold on to that's not selling, or can be replaced by something similar, um, or substituted essentially, because retail space is a premium and warehouse space is a premium. And of course, it takes a lot of time and a lot of money to change the molds over before going into another batch of, production for more miniatures. So, with all of that said and done, have an open mind about it all. We're gonna have a look and see what's been removed, and we'll see why. Oh no, Hero, you're right, man. Ah, well, never mind. I'm glad that you made it here. Um, and of course, that sounds awesome, dude. So, let's have a look. I mean, look, these still look fantastic, right? And they're so new. The Beastmen, very, very tired. They haven't been touched. I think. I mean, yeah, they haven't been touched since 7th edition at most. I mean, the newest edition would be um, the Giant, but I mean that's old. And this massive Gorgon thing as well, right here. Um, it was a little bit sooner, but again, these are things that were added onto it. These regular gauze are so outdated. You got this cool miniature here, which was a new edition, but again, it was more of a token, sort of keep people interested sort of thing. And then, of course, we got the bone splitters. And these are one of those weird factions that sits perfectly in the old world setting, but they seem a bit amiss in Age of Sigmar. And I think this was one of those factions that was sort of a hangover from the introduction of Age of Sigmar, where they would bring in the factions over and then giving them a new narrative and a new spin, sort of, give them some longevity into it. But with the old world coming back, they're going to need some of those factions coming back in house. Now the Warcry ones, and was it Warcry and Underworlds? If they're not producing them, because again, limited space, limited production, right? Then it's no surprise that that's gonna go essentially, because less and less people are going to go back and buy stuff. And if people are going to buy stuff, there's already enough stock out there in the world that people just pick up what they want. So again, I mean, there's such amazing, interesting stuff going on there. But again, if it's not moving the numbers, then of course they can't justify having it around. You got to remember, Games Workshop is a corporation after all. They do have shareholders to answer to, and of course they got employees to pay as well. So if they lose money, then everyone loses out. So the biggest Cull is of course these Stormcast Eternals. They're all getting slimmed down. They all got that new armor that's been shown off since last edition. And yeah, essentially it's just getting rid of a lot of the same things as well, because a lot of these things can be substituted by stuff in a new range. And of course, the upcoming 4th edition of Age of Sigmar will also include more miniatures. So to reduce that bloat, they've cleared out a lot of this. I assume it's all going to be, re-releases of this stuff, but in the newer style armor and stuff like that. Go for it, Payne. How you doing? But I mean, that's a long list, right? And mean, look, this is such a majestic miniature, right? And it just feels so new. I mean, it is new, but it's going. The prosecutors. I mean, they were there since day dot, right? The paladins, um, the judicators, the liberators. These were there day dot. They were well due for a refresh since they dropped the new armor style, right? And there's a lot of the first gen stuff here, but there's also a lot of the second edition stuff here, all getting redone. But it's just some of it. It just feels like a bit of a waste. And then of course Skaven definitely needed an overhaul, especially because of the old world coming in. They're gonna have to distinguish the differences between the Age of Sigma Skaven and what they're gonna look like going forward, and the old world Skaven, if they do indeed reintroduce them. And I feel like if they do reintroduce Skaven into the old world, they are going to look different. I think they're definitely going to take a step back in their tech. They're going to be a lot more simpler looking. But at the same time, I don't know how they're going to, justify. I don't know how they're going to do that design variance, but we'll see. I mean, we've got Sky Pirate Dwarfs, for instance. They couldn't look any far more removed from your regular Ironbreaker, mostly because they're flying. But yeah, this was a tied range anyway. So and then of course the Bone Splitters, again, quite a tied range. Yeah, and they would fit much better in the old world setting. Now, a lot of this stuff is I mean, they're fantastic sculpts, all of them. But if they haven't been available for so long, and people are not buying them when they are available, or they're only being bought in limited numbers, they can only justify having them around so long. And there was one interesting point made by the Honest Wargamer, Rob, about whether Games Workshop need to work out whether or not this stuff is selling because of their compatibility with Age of Sigma, or if they're selling because people are buying into Warhammer Underworlds and Warcry. Because all these releases came with a rule set, a war scroll essentially, where you could play them in our thing. And that's where we bring it back to that thing I mentioned before about what a lot of people are saying about how Games Workshop is running. You've got the Citadel house, you've got the Forge World Specialist Games house, and each one's got to work out what they're creating, what they're promoting, what they're selling, and they've got to work out their profit margins. And if there's any crossover, it skews the numbers, and then they can't figure out if something is successful because it's sold for what it's sold for, or if it's, what it's intended for, or if something is successful because of the cross-pollination. So in that regards, this lot is going. So that's something. Now, all of these Beasts of Chaos are going. It's a shame because, the Endless Spells were pretty new as well, but they're off. But yeah, the rest of it was just very old and tired. You do have new style gauze, like the bull gauze. They're called the Termagurge or something. I can't bloody remember. So they already got like a foot in the door for that. You've got your Cinchian, a variety of gauze as well. I think there's another variety out there. But yeah, you got the Zangor and then you got the other ones. So they're leaning more into the varieties there. This stuff doesn't really work well. I mean, Dragon Ogres, when were they last available? Tell me that. When could you walk into the shop and buy a box of Dragon Ogres? Not for at least at least 15 or 16 years, right? Um, so there you go. And the Cockatrice was literally introduced for the Storm of Magic um, boost that they were trying to reinvest in, Warhammer Fantasy Battles before they decided to can it. So, you got to look at that stuff. And without the rose tinted glasses, and it says others. There are also a handful of other miniatures going off sale and receiving Legends War Scrolls. The Mistweaver was originally available for a board game. Branch Wraith, I don't know why that's going. It could just be because it's a fine cast. But see, I think there's a few bits here that are available by Forge World, not by Citadel, and that's why they're going. But this one, it's weird. I think they might be clearing up that range because I think they're going to want to bring in those misty elves eventually. So with that said and done, a lot of things are going to get replaced, a lot of things are going to get reboxed and rebranded, and a lot of things are just going to go because they're going to just retire them. And it is going to suck for a lot of people. And you're going to hear, well, you can play at unofficial tournaments. You're going to hear, thank you so much, Dicey Guy. Appreciate it, man. You're going to hear, hey, Master Mouse, how you doing? You're going to hear a lot from people saying, you can play it on your own. It does make, you can continue collecting. You do have, I think, over a year, they've given you a big, where does it say? They gave, there you go. You can still use in competitive play until summer 2025. All of these things will get free rules, free to download digital battle tomes, so you can still use them up until the time that they are officially canned, which is going to be the summer of 2025. And like I said, a lot of rebranding, a lot of reissuing, a lot of redoing will be done in that time. So it is one of those things where and it's not going to be the last time. It's going to happen periodically because at the rate that Games Workshop are producing miniatures, and they got all these different game systems going on. They got Lord of the Rings, they have the Old World, they have Necromunda, they got Blood Bowl, they got Warcry, Underworlds. You've got Kill Team, you've got 40k, you've got Age of Sigmar. There's a lot of systems going on there, and they need to figure out what's actually making money because it's intended to be sold that way and what's not. And you'll see things trimmed down, you'll see things take a back seat, and you'll see other things get additional support. But yeah, as I said, if you collect those ranges, I've been there, I know how it feels. Just enjoy your miniatures nonetheless. And if you're in the competitive scene and this affects you largely, I mean, if you're a seasoned competitive player, this is going to be no news to you. You're used to that. You've probably got contingencies. If you're new to the competitive scene, this is going to hit you hard. But you got a whole year to work it out. So, let me know in the chat and in the comments if you think that's at least nice of them. They're communicating this. They're not just dropping it. They're giving us plenty of notice. They're saying it's all the stuff's going to have support until then. And let me know if this affects you at all. But yeah, going to leave it there. I'm going to stop recording. And yeah, I'll leave the video there. So subscribe.